Hello folks, I want to do this video on who in the world is the house of Israel, because this is a nugget of truth I stumbled on about 12 years ago when I started to learn who Israel really was. And I stumbled on this website and this guy named Larry McGuire, and I don't agree with everything he teaches on his site, but man, he hit this out of the ballpark, because it was everything the Lord had been showing me and teaching me about Israel. And so I'm not one to reinvent the wheel. I'm just going to bring out and show you some of his information that he has on his site. And hopefully you can get something out of this, because this has been truths that have been blocked from the churches in America for years. Because Satan doesn't want you to know what the truths are. That's why he has the Freemasons as your pastors. Most pastors in America today belong to Freemasonry. That means they're owned and controlled by Lucifer himself. Their allegiance in Freemasonry is to the God of light, who we know as Lucifer. So anyway, I want to bring this truth out and teach you some new things today. Now, Ephraim and Manasseh, who are the two sons of Joseph, received a calling from the Lord through personal prophetic words from Joseph, a calling that was never revoked and was to culminate in our day. First of all, they were given the name of Israel. Because they became the heads of the northern kingdom, that kingdom became known as the house of Israel. This was why Judah had no right to the name Israel. It is also why the northern kingdom never went by the name Jew. They had their own title, were privileged to have it, and were not about to give it up for some lesser name that had a reproach attached to it, and which they detested. With this name being theirs, and with the arising division between them and the Judahites, they became a distinct people unto themselves with a different title. Remember the 12 tribes of Israel as a united kingdom in the land of Israel at one time. The southern tribes, Judah and Simeon, were broken away from the northern tribes, the northern 10. And we're going to find out why. It's also detailed in the Bible. In the Old Testament, we see that the father, through Jacob, set the younger Ephraim before Manasseh. This gave Ephraim the ruling position, and he was to become greater than Manasseh. Both sons were to become great in the earth and blessed with wealth, but Ephraim was to become greater than Manasseh, and this he surely did. He became the United States of America, the greatest city of Israel the earth has ever seen. Manasseh became England, who in its day was a mighty empire. By the sure word of prophecy, you must find Ephraim and Manasseh, non-Jews, in the world today, for they were to become two mighty nations. For those that would like to argue against their being the United States and England, then I ask, whom do you say they are? As time went by, great hostility grew between the two kingdoms of Judah and Israel. Neither would have much to do with the other, except while under extreme circumstances. The house of Judah for a time continued somewhat off and on to walk with Yah. Not the house of Israel, though. They became very wicked and pagan in their worships, much like we have today. It runs in the natural blood. Israel became so wicked with their sins that Yah divorced them from their spiritual harlotry in Jeremiah 3:8. We have not learned much from our ancestors, and as we have become the greatest whore of all time, Babylon. Because they were under judgment, they were eventually conquered by the Assyrians and carried off into slavery. From out of that captivity, they scattered all over Europe, migrating north from Assyria through the Caucasus Mountains, picking up the term Caucasians along the way. In Genesis 21:12, there is an interesting statement. It says, "For in Isaac shall thy seed be called." The first meaning is the chosen would come through Isaac, the seed in Isaac being the ones called. But that is not all that resulted from this. Above we saw that Ephraim and Manasseh received the right to Isaac's name as well as that of Israel. Some of the northern tribes did indeed go by the term seed of Isaac. The seed of Isaac means the sons of Isaac. As time went by, the wording went from Isaac's sons to Saxons. The term Anglo-Saxons literally means sons of Isaac. Through the centuries following their pagan ways and religions, their identity became lost even to themselves, and like today, had no idea what the terms Caucasian or Anglo-Saxon meant, or where and how they originated. From the time of the separation until this day, the house of Israel has been a distinctly different people from the Judahites and from Jews. They are a people that forgot who they were. Thusly, we have Yahshua in Matthew 10:6 and 15:4 calling them the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Manasseh and Ephraim and all the other tribes do not know who they are. They don't even know that their original ancestors, their original forefathers, are from the land of Israel. There can be no question about most of the people who call themselves Caucasians or Anglo-Saxons. They are without a doubt the people of the house of Israel. Certainly all of Ephraim and Manasseh are Anglo-Saxons. Yet how much of a fuss this raises when it is told to people. It is amazing how most Christians have no trouble at all with the theorem that Yah is the God of Israel and that Yahushua is their Redeemer. No trouble, that is, as long as it is incorrectly and wrongfully applied to those who deceivingly call themselves Jews and are counterfeit Judites. But when it is applied correctly to those who really are of Yah's chosen people, all kinds of hostility immediately erupts. All of this in spite of what the Word has to say, and in direct conflict with what history and clear evidence expressly verifies, because they don't want you to have the truth. The wolves guarding the sheep don't want you to know who you are and where you're from. As in other key positions of Scripture, again, the truth is denied and steadfastly opposed with vigor. They are priests of Baal working overtime in this nation to try and destroy this knowledge, trying to destroy it for when the house of Israel wakes up to whom they are and what calling and mandate is upon them. Satan is through. May Yah reward the deceivers according to their works. They have people so blinded that when such a truth is brought to them, they just wave it away without even giving it any thought or consideration. Most people can't believe that they are actually part of Israel itself because your pastors have drilled it into your heads that you are Gentiles. What do deceivers say? All of the ones who are trying to destroy this truth of whom the house of Israel is have one thing in common. They try and tell us the two houses of Judah and Israel were joined back together at the time the Judahites came out of its captivity to ancient Babylon to build the temple in Jerusalem. That from this time on all of Yah's people were known as Jews, and there was no longer a house of Israel in the world. Only the lazy and gullible could believe such lies, for they are utterly without basis. I ask these men, if this be so, then why are there so many prophecies concerning the house of Israel for the last days, as opposed to the house of Judah? Why is it that Yah never uses the term Jew in those prophecies? By the time Judah came out of Babylon to build the temple, the house of Israel had been migrating north for 200 years. There were some who had undoubtedly stayed in the area and returned to Palestine with Judah. But did they all come back at that time? If so, who went out to get them? They did not have communication, nor the mass transit systems of today. They were already multiplying into the prophesied millions. And those all came back to Israel? How did Israel even know about this rebuilding of the temple, as they were thousands of miles away in Europe? Yahushua said it would take until the end of the ages to go over the cities of Israel. How did the Judahites accomplish it so quickly? The building of the temple was long before Yahushua, yet even 500 years later, he still calls them the house of Israel and lost sheep. Why? Do you know more than what he does? In John 7:33, Yahushua says, Yet a little while I am with you, and then I go unto him that sent me. Ye shall seek me, and shall not find me, and where I am, thither ye cannot come. In verse 35, a question then comes from amongst the Jews themselves. Then said the Jews, 500 years after the building of the temple, mind you, whither he will go that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles? Unto the dispersed among the Gentiles. That means Israel was dispersed among the Gentiles. They are not the Gentiles, they were dispersed amongst the Gentiles. The Jews knew the house of Israel were still a dispersed people and had never returned to Palestine. They figured this was where Yahushua was going to go. Because of the division and hostility between the dispersed Israel and these Jews, they were not allowed into the house of Israel territories. Therefore they reasoned, this must be the place that he is going that we cannot follow. When does the joining take place? When all of Israel is joined back together? It is in Ezekiel 37, when he talks about the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim and the tribes of Israel, and the stick of Judah, and they are brought together, and this will occur after the second coming of Christ. I'm not going to go through all of this right now. They will be joined together back at the end of the tribulation period. There will be two separate houses right up until the two sticks are joined back together. They are not joined back together until the end time, when the return of Yahushua is imminent, for it is not until then that no one will ever again defile themselves with any transgression, as prophesied in Ezekiel 37. And so this basically throws out what I've been saying as well about Israel being brought back into the land in 1948, that entire thing was a Rothschild concoction. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, because I may put this up on my website so you guys can browse through this. But one of the things that I want you to see is that the Jews today are Hasidic. The fake Jews mentioned in Revelation 2:9 and 3:9 are Hasidic. Hasidism, sometimes Hasidic Judaism, Ashkenazi pronunciation, is a Jewish religious group. Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, remember him, known as the Lubavitcher, was a prominent Hasidic rabbi. And this is what's really interesting. Hasidic definition, a member of the sect founded in Poland in the 18th century, characterized by its emphasis on mysticism, prayer, and rituals. That is when they brought in the Kabbalah and the Talmud teachings. Now, as I talked about in my last video, how the entire Holocaust in Germany was brought about by the fake Jews, the satanic Jews, the Hasidic Jews, who wanted to destroy the Torah-believing Jews amongst the Israelites, the Christian Jews. And this is one of the things I stumbled on, because if you look at Auschwitz, the largest concentration camp during the Holocaust, where was it located? It was located in Poland. Poland. Where did Hasidics arise out of? Poland. Poland. They're all connected. And the concentration camp of Auschwitz was connected in Poland. Even today, Western Ukraine is what they call their home territory. They originated out of that entire area region, folks. These fake, false Ashkenazi Jews. We call them Khazarians, Ashkenazis. It's all connected, folks. And what I want you to realize is that most of you today think that you're Gentiles, that you are not part of the tribes of Israel, when that is so far from the truth. I want you to know who you are. You were originally from the tribe of Judah. I've been screaming this for years. It was your ancestors who were the slaves over in Egypt, that were led by Moses out of Egypt and back to Israel. It was your ancestors, Ephraim and Manasseh, America and Europe. And during that time, the 40 years of wandering in the desert, many of them left, migrated to Europe for thousands of years. Israel, the lost 10 tribes, even the southern, the Judah and Benjamin, were migrating to Israel or to the Europe. And then they got on boats and they migrated over to America. And they migrated down to Australia. And they're in Canada. And they're in Mexico. What I do know is the tribe of Reuben is today, it's modern day France. And Dan is Germany. So here we have Germany represented by the tribe of Dan. Ephraim represented by the tribe of America. And what are the two tribes not mentioned in Revelation chapter 7 when 12,000 are sealed from each tribe of Israel? Because at this point, these two tribes are counted singularly instead of combined. You will not find Dan and Ephraim mentioned as being part of the tribes, the 12,000 sealed on earth. They're not mentioned because they're so evil and so wicked, they're not mentioned. Germany and America. And what do we have rubbed in our faces today with Babylonian and Egyptian gods, strange gods, idolatry, Freemasonry, the Illuminati? We have all that garbage rubbed in our faces, and it's all from these two tribes, Dan and Ephraim. They did it in the past. They kept falling into idol worship, and they've done it today. And I think it's going to be pretty shocking for the churches to realize that America is not one of the tribes. Ephraim is not one of the countries that will participate in having 12,000 of their people sealed in Revelation chapter 7. Anyway, folks, I just want you to realize who and what you are in the Lord, what your real history is, where you come from. Anglo-Saxons, Caucasians, Anglo-Saxons, sons of Isaac, son of Jacob, Israel, Judites. It's all here, folks. It's our true history. Anyway, I'm going to be coming back with more videos, more teaching videos, because time's getting short and people need to know who and what they are and what's going on, and that's what I'm going to be here for. I'm going to go back into teaching for a while and start teaching you things as the Father leads me to. Anyway, everybody, God bless.